Hi, everybody. Welcome to Search Like a Boss. Find the perfect stock photo for your next visual marketing project. My name is Jake Fanning, and I am the social community coordinator here at PicMonkey. With us today is the wonderfully brilliant Pamela Wilson of Big Brand System. Hi, Pamela.
Hello, it's so good to see everyone.
How are you today?
I'm doing great. I am so excited about this workshop. You and I have been working on it for a while,
Yes.
and my big goal is to just help people find great photos faster because I know that's such a pain point. People really
Mhm.
struggle over finding the best photo.
Absolutely. No, it really is. So, yeah, I'm excited as well. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself?
Well, I am an online educator. I'm going to actually bring up a slide because I created this page that has some resources for PicMonkey customers. I am an online educator. I'm an author, a keynote speaker. I'm also a business coach, and I am the founder of Big Brand System, which is my site that I founded back in 2010. And my background is that I'm a graphic designer, so I have done that for years, and selecting photos was a big part of my job.
Mhm.
And I've been helping businesses communicate their messages for more than 30 years. I've been doing it for a long time. And I do it because I love it. And this page actually has some additional links and some additional information for people who are taking this workshop. There's also a free workshop at the top that people can sign up for. So hopefully that will be helpful and give you a little more information about this. And I know you and I have some questions. We're really going to encourage questions on this one. Do you want to
Absolutely.
start with the first question?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like Pamela said, we want to make this super engaging. So we're going to start off with a couple questions or a few questions for you guys. Please feel free to jump in and put them in chat, and we'll go from there. So the first question we're going to have is, on average, how long does it take you guys to search for a stock photo?
I have to tell you, I one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this is that
Mhm.
I have met people who have told me that it takes, I mean, almost an hour to find a good photo, that they just end up spending tons of time scrolling and scrolling and looking, and they can't find anything. So I know that's a very big frustration for people.
Yeah.
If this is something that you struggle with and you're here live, we would love to hear how it goes for you when you go onto a stock photo site. You're looking at all these little thumbnail images. What are you struggling with, and what's difficult about that? Um, I know some people just say, I just can't find the right one. I don't even know what to look for. So
Yeah.
that can be a tough one.
Mhm.
So
So
if
I'm
you're here,
seeing here we've got like about an hour for a good number of people. Some people a little shorter, like 10, 15 minutes, but most people a little 30 minutes to like an hour. So good to know. Thanks, guys.
okay, great. That's great to know. I'm actually not seeing questions on my end, so we may need to have you read the
No
answers,
worries.
Jake.
I can do
Okay.
that. I got it open.
Yeah, great. Okay, and I know we have another one, which is what is your biggest frustration? So, what is your biggest frustration when you're searching for photos? What do you think makes it take so long? That's what I want to know. I would love to hear that.
Yeah, me too. No, yeah, that is something I would like to know more about. Let's see here. Usually bad labeling is what I'm getting here.
Oh, interesting. Bad labeling on the photos themselves.
Mhm.
But
Some
we
look
do.
overly posed.
Oh boy, we're going to be talking about all
Oh
this. So
yeah.
this is exciting.
Yay.
Great.
And then copyright issues.
Oh,
That's good
copy.
too.
Oh my gosh. So we're covering all those things. This is great.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing, everyone. This is really good
Yeah.
to know.
And just to let you guys know, the plan for today is we'll get started. But after that, we really do want to take as many questions as possible. So we will interrupt every once in a while and pause to take some questions and to answer some questions. So please feel free to keep asking them, and we will try to get to them. We'll also be doing a short demo afterwards, and then we will have a Q&A session to get to any of the questions we may have missed. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, if anything is confusing as we're going along, please let us know. And yeah, I'm still, for some reason, not seeing questions over here, Jake.
Oh
So it is your job to interrupt once
no.
we get going. And I think we were going to ask about sites that people use to look for stock photos. So
Yes,
if
yes.
people want to share that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And also, last question here. Any sites that you guys might use? So I'm seeing Pixabay, Pexels, 2020.com, and
Hmm,
Unsplash. Okay.
cool.
Yeah, a lot of Unsplash users. Cool beans.
Cool. Okay, good. We are going to be talking about Unsplash today. Should we get started? What do you think?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to turn my camera off.
That's good. So we can focus on the slides. So we'll see you
Right,
guys. We'll turn cameras back on towards the end.
right.
Okay, let's get
Okay.
started.
Okay, I'm just stopping over here. Okay, awesome. Here we go. All right, Jake. So now you know, just interrupt with any questions, but we are going to start by talking about eye training. This is something that I like to talk about. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, which, if you know anything about Nashville, you know that the nickname for the city is Music City, USA. There are a ton of musicians in Nashville. And musicians are familiar with this concept of ear training. One of the ways that you can become a better musician and develop a better understanding of what you're hearing in music is to train your ear to recognize what's going on in the music. So that's things like the instruments being used, the melodies, the keys. And the exact same thing happens when you are learning design. I call it eye training, and the concepts that we're going to cover today really are eye training concepts. They're going to help you to search with more confidence and to find really great photos as you're scrolling through them. So I'm excited to have you learn these ideas. Let's go ahead and get started with these different concepts. The whole idea here is I want you to be able to search with confidence. So I want you to be able to find what you need quickly and easily. And I also really want you to stay out of legal hot water. So we're going to spend just a few moments at the very beginning talking about why you want to stay out of legal hot water and an easy way to do that. And of course, speed. We're all about speed. We want to make sure you can find the best photos fast. So the big secret to finding the right photo faster is eliminating the photos that will not work for you. So it's all about seeing the photos that aren't good so that you can scroll right past them and go directly to the photos that are good and that are going to work for your purpose. So here we go. This is the kind of boring part of this presentation.
Still
It
super
won't take
important.
long. It's right, important, but it's slightly boring, but we'll get through it quickly. So I want to make sure that you stay out of legal hot water. And the reason I say this is that I have known people who have been sued by stock photo companies for thousands of
Oh
dollars
wow.
because they were not aware of how they could use that image. So the first piece of advice that I have for you is do not search for images on Google. See this woman covering her eyes? She is not searching for images on Google. Google has this function called Google Image Search, but when you open up photos in Google Image Search, you see this little line of text that says, images may be subject to copyright. And that means that the images on Google Image Search may belong to someone. They are their intellectual property, and you are not allowed to use them just because you find them on the internet. Now, there is a really safe way to search for photos, and we're going to talk more about this, but one site that's been mentioned already is Unsplash. The photos on Unsplash you're allowed to use them, and you're allowed to use them for commercial purposes, which is wonderful because if you can find a great image there, you don't need to worry about getting into legal hot water, which is great. The other thing that you can use is use paid stock photo sites. So I use bigstockphoto.com a lot. There are lots of others, and those are great options for paid stock photos as well, because these are photos that they've worked with the photographers and you have the right to use those photos. Did we come up with any questions on that section, Jake?
Not yet. Nope.
Okay, great, great. And then understanding and respecting usage terms. So all of these stock photo sites have usage terms. It's kind of boring to read that information, but I highly recommend that you take a moment before you use the site to just check and make sure that you are allowed to use the photos for commercial purposes. All right, we're starting with a fun part now. So, here we are, we're on our stock photo site where we have full permission to use the image. And what we're going to do is first identify the emotion that we want to communicate. So like I said, what we're trying to do is eliminate photos that really do not work. And one way we do this is to identify what it is that we want to communicate with our photo. So ask yourself, what emotion do I want to convey? Is it happiness? Is it determination? Is it confidence? Is it sadness? I mean, it may be a lot of different emotions, and I want you to think about what that emotion is, and what it is that you want your photo to say before you fire up your stock photo site, because that's going to help those great photos to pop right out at you. So I have two examples, joy and wonder. And what I did is I went on to stock photo sites and I looked for these two words. So let's start with joy. Here's a great photo that I think demonstrates joy. You see this little kid, she's covered with paint. She's looking upward. She's got a huge smile on her face. I mean, that's kind of joy personified, don't you think,
Oh yeah,
Jake?
absolutely.
Yeah, she looks like a happy kiddo. And then we have an older woman kind of on the other end of the age spectrum. She also looks very joyful. She's got her hand up to her mouth. Her eyes are smiling. It's a great photo to show joy. So this would be another example that would be fantastic. And then we have this photo. These are kids. They're playing, it looks like soccer in a field in a wooded area. They're jumping for joy, literally jumping for joy. So this is a great example of a joy-filled photo as well. Then we have wonder. Wonder may seem like a slightly similar emotion, but there's an aspect of wonder that has to do with reverence to a certain extent, like reverence and respect for the world around you, right? So this is a great photo to show wonder. Here's a young boy. Again, he's kind of looking up, but he looks like he's kind of in awe. So this is a wonderful image for wonder, for the concept of wonder. Here's another one. Here's someone looking up at a majestic tall tree. She's in nature. It's a foggy day. It's a fantastic image for wonder as well. And then we have no people in this one, but just a beautiful night sky, a beautiful moon, a shooting star, just in case you needed one more element of wonder. So this is also a great photo for that emotion. So that is my recommendation, that you go into your stock photo search with your emotion first. Think about the emotion that you're searching for before you get on the site. It only takes a moment to make that decision about what emotion you want. I also recommend that you write it down. It's a good idea to write it down, because sometimes you start scrolling on these sites and you kind of get distracted by all the
Oh yeah,
photos, right?
lots
So
of pretty ones.
right, there's so much to see. So if you have it written down, that can be very helpful. It just keeps you on track so you don't get distracted by the shiny objects. So make a note, let it guide your searching, and then look at the emotional content of the photos you find. So don't just look at the picture itself.
Mhm.
Really look at it and say, what emotion is this photo conveying? Does that make sense, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have two questions here. So one is more on the legal side, and that is, are you allowed to add a logo or info to the photos?
So normally, if you're working on a stock photo site where you have permission to use the photo for commercial uses, you can also modify that photo and add anything you'd like. So it's important to familiarize yourself with what's allowed, but normally you're allowed to add a logo. There may be some limitations about taking the final image that you create and, like, let's say printing it on a t-shirt and trying to sell the t-shirt. So that's the kind of thing. I mean, it sort of depends on how you plan to use it. You need to look into it and familiarize yourself. What else
Okay.
did we get in this section?
We got a really great one about emotion. So it is, what would be the emotion if you were looking for something in travel?
Okay, so I think it depends a lot on what. So travel is a broad topic. It's kind of an
Mhm.
umbrella topic. So then you need to dig a little bit deeper and say, what do I want to say about travel? Do I want to say this is how to have a successful around the world trip? And so you want to show someone who looks very confident, who looks happy. You don't want someone who looks frazzled, right? So it's sort of figuring out what you want to say specifically about that topic and then digging deep for that photo. Oftentimes these photos are used to illustrate a piece of content, and that piece of content has specific information. So you want to think about the emotion related to that information. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's keep going because I want to talk about this idea of using search terms like a boss. So most stock photo sites have a way to search their inventory. The best ones do, and they all function a little bit differently. So I want to show you, I brought up Unsplash as an example. Unsplash, if you combine two terms, so I put pumpkin picking because here in the US, we are moving quickly into pumpkin season. So this
Yes.
is going to be a search that lots of people will do in the coming days. So pumpkin picking, you put in those two words at the top, and what Unsplash serves up at the very top of their results are photos that have both of those terms. So they're very on point. I mean, you are seeing places where pumpkins may be picked. Now there's an apple picking photo right there in the middle, just for some interest, but a lot of these are pumpkin picking photos. They're very much on target for that search term. And they're showing pumpkins and pumpkin patches, right?
Hmm.
As you scroll down on that same page, though, oftentimes what comes up are photos that only feature one of those terms. So remember, we had pumpkin picking. So on the left-hand side, we have picking, but it's lock picking, okay?
Hmm.
On the right-hand side, we have picking, but it's picking flowers. And then on the bottom, we have picking, but it's picking apples. So my recommendation is to look for the terms at the very top first, look for the photos that come up at the very top of your results, because if you put in a couple of search terms, those are the photos that are going to be probably the most reflective of the search terms that you plugged in. Then we have baby, right? So I did the search term baby, and we have all these super cute photos of babies. But let's say you come up with this and you say, oh, that these babies are way younger than what I want. I really need to look for older children. So then along the top on Unsplash, you have all of these additional terms that you can click on that are related to your first search, but they're maybe a little bit more specific. So one of them here is kids. So if we click on that, then we get kids, and then they're older children. They don't look so much like infants, they're older children, and that may be closer to what you're looking for. So I highly recommend you get to know how the search function works on your favorite stock photo sites and just really dig in so you can find what you need faster, because that's what we're going for. So as I said, the first search results are often the closest to your search terms, and just use those alternate terms if you need more accurate results if what you're seeing isn't quite on. Did we get anything in that section,
We,
Jake?
we do actually. Really good question. Do you recommend digging deeper into pages of stock photos to avoid using commonly used pics?
Who asked that one?
That was Angela.
Angela. Okay, Angela, thank you for that. That's a great question. So the way I would answer that question is to say, Yes, definitely. Dig deeper if you feel like the first terms may be terms that lots of people will use, but
Okay.
go into it with all the tips we're talking about today. So go into it knowing the emotion you want to convey, go into it knowing specifically what you want to say with that photo. And you need to be somewhat concerned about, lots of other people using that photo. But I'm thinking that since you're here on a PicMonkey workshop, a PicMonkey webinar, maybe you're going to be modifying that photo inside of PicMonkey. You might be adding text to it or a logo. You might be adding some filters to change it up. So you don't have to worry about that as much if you're planning to modify the photo, because by the
Okay.
time you finish with it, Angela, it is not going to look like anyone else's photo. So that's my recommendation, is be concerned about that, but not if you're planning to modify it, because then you really are putting your own unique stamp on that photo. And that's an opportunity to help the image to stand out. What
Awesome.
else do we have?
That was it for that one right there
Okay,
so
great.
far. Yeah.
Okay. Somebody asked about this at the beginning, and I was so glad that you asked about it because I want to talk. This is such a pet peeve for me. So, this
Yeah.
idea of posed and candid photos. So, on stock photo sites, we sometimes, not always, but sometimes you see these very posed looking photos. So, this is how you can recognize a posed photo. A posed photo looks like the photographer arranged the subjects in the photo. They look very deliberately placed. And oftentimes, if there are people in the photo, they look like they're doing something specific for the camera. So you can almost hear the photographer say, "Okay, everybody, now jump," right? Or, "Okay, everybody, now point," right? They just look like they're performing for the camera. You've seen those, right, Jake?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially I feel like for any kind of company handbooks or anything like that, like very corporate, you usually see
Yes.
that really posed kind of look.
Right.
And
And
actually,
it,
I do kind of have a question, Pamela.
oh,
Sorry to
yeah.
interrupt, but
No, good.
when is there a point when you would use more of a posed stock photo?
There may be points, but there's a continuum on the post
Mhm.
stock photo spectrum, right? There's a
Yeah.
continuum. And I would say there are some that are just straight out kind of cheesy and you want to avoid
Yes.
those. And then there are some, I actually have an example coming up. It's
Awesome.
not terrible. It is
Mhm.
posed, but it's not terrible. So I'll show you an example. This is one of these things that's hard to talk about in the abstract, and it's much easier when you show examples. So I'm here with examples, so I'll show that. But a candid photo is a photo that looks a little bit like the subjects weren't even aware that they were being photographed. You're just capturing them in a candid moment. And the great thing about candid photos is they really capture the spirit of the moment. They convey emotion, they show small moments that communicate big stories. This is one of the reasons I love candid photos, because they're really great about that. So I promised you examples. So let's pretend that we're looking for a photo for office, kind of like the example that you just gave, right?
Yeah.
So here's a posed office photo. It is not too bad. Honestly, this could be a
Mhm.
lot worse. We've all seen a lot worse, but this looks like a real space. Everybody is wearing kind of casual clothing. I mean, you can tell it's posed because everybody has their laptops open just so, and they've all got their attention directed at the speaker, who is conveniently standing with his coffee cup just so, with his marker pointed at the whiteboard. Like, it's a little bit too perfect. So
Yeah.
it's posed, but honestly, in the continuum of posed stock photos, it's not too terrible. But I would say this is a posed one, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Then we have this one. This one doesn't look posed at all. I mean, these people look like they didn't even know their photos were being taken. This looks very much, I mean, it's still guys working on a laptop, right?
Mhm.
Well, there's a woman on the left, but it's basically people working on laptops. So it's kind of the same subject matter, but this one looks very candid. It kind of looks like you're a fly on the wall looking at this scene, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And Why do you feel that is more candid shots are usually preferred? Because I know, like in my personal life, when I do photographs, I do tend to prefer a candid shot of people, like going out for a hike or something. I really actually do prefer just to kind of get friends and family in like a candid shot instead of all posing in front of a tree or a mountain or
Yeah.
something.
I think it's that feeling that you are right there in the moment. You are
Okay.
right there while it's happening,
Yeah.
where with the post photo on the left, I mean, I kind of feel like we could sit there for about 10 seconds and nobody in that photo would move. They would all be in the same position. But the one on the right feels like it happened in a split second and the whole image could have changed within just a few seconds. So
Yeah.
it's that feeling of immediacy and a feeling that you're kind of right there in the moment while it's happening.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, here's another one. And again, it's easier to talk about this with examples. So let's say we do a search for workout. So I love the examples in this section because this is actually from the same photo shoot. So you'll see. So it's the same group of people. Here they are in a posed position. I mean, this is so posed, right? It's like the photographer said, okay, everyone, hold your 1 pound dumbbell in your right hand, and then with your left hand, hold your like palms facing out with a dumbbell in the air and don't smile too much because you're doing a workout, right? It's
Yeah.
very posed, right? Same models. This is a candid shot. So they're
Okay.
they're not lifting weights, they're in the same space and they look like they're taking a rest after taking the photo on the left, right? But it looks more in the moment. It looks like we are here while this is happening, like we're right in the room with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's like shared experiences, honestly.
Exactly. That's a great way to talk about it. And the one on the left, it's not a bad photo, but the one on the right is a little bit more immediate. And I think people have an easier time engaging with something that feels immediate and less posed. So in a like just to kind of sum up, when we're looking for photos of people especially, search for images that seem to capture a moment in time and avoid photos that seem too posed and too perfect. That's how we can sum up this section. And the photo on the right is that's a great example. I mean, this guy looks like he's laughing like he just snapped his fingers. I mean, it's pretty immediate. Okay, next section, I want to talk to people about visually busy images. Do we have any questions on that
I was
one,
about to
actually?
say, we do. So someone asked, Joan asked, stock photos versus ones we take ourselves, which is more useful?
I think if you want to develop your chops as a photographer, I encourage you to take your own photos. Now, what we're talking about today is how to find really great photos on stock photo sites. So, this is a fantastic option if you don't happen to have the right photo on hand,
Mhm.
you haven't taken it yet, maybe, or you just need the immediate photo. So, you're going to a site to try to find something that will work. But absolutely, if you want to take your own photos, I think that's a fantastic option.
Perfect.
Anything else from this section?
That was it.
Okay, great. So the next thing I want to talk about is visually busy images. So visually busy images are images that just have a lot going on in them. And since we're here, we are all users and fans of PicMonkey. We are likely going to be adding text and graphics and logos and all sorts of things to our images. So that's one of the reasons that I want you to avoid images that are visually busy because it's much easier to add text and add graphics to images that are simple. Simple images can still be understood even when they're reduced in size. So the reason I say that is that so many of us are creating images for social platforms, and so many of the people we're trying to reach are firing up their social platforms on a phone, on a small phone. And that means that our images are being viewed at a very small size. So I want to recommend that you start with images that are simpler because your photos will be easier to understand. And guess what? I brought examples, Jake.
Yay!
It's so much easier to talk about this when we have examples. So
Definitely.
the first thing is coffee shop. So let's say we want to show a coffee shop. So the photo on the left is visually busy. It's a great photo. I mean,
Yeah,
I
super
love
cool.
those pendant lamps, right? They're beautiful.
Yeah.
And it looks like a great space. I mean, I would definitely want to check out that menu and drink some coffee there. But
Yeah.
it's visually busy. There's just a lot going on in this photo. So the alternative photo that I brought is this one. She is still clearly in a coffee shop. This is not a home situation where she's serving herself coffee. She's in a coffee shop. This may be a barista actually. So she's getting that ready to give to a customer. It's obviously a coffee shop setting, but it's so much easier to add text to this. So here's my example. On the left-hand side, I've added this text. You probably can't really read it, but it says fuel for your productivity, which is what coffee is, right? So, and
Definitely.
and then on the right-hand side, I added the same text, but you can see it's so much easier to add text to the photo on the right because there's an area where it's not as busy and it's
Mhm.
easy to add that text. So it's easy to find as the image creator, it's easy for me to find a place to add that text, but it's also easier when this photo is reduced to be able to still read that text. So here's our photo on the left, reduced. We're looking at it on a phone. Here's the same photo on the right. When people see this one, they say, oh, it's a coffee shop.
Mhm.
So when they see the photo on the left, they may not be quite sure what's going on in the photo, but the one on the right, they can definitely tell it's a coffee shop. So the summary of actually, I'm going to start talking about the summary of the whole thing. So maybe I should ask you first, do we have questions on this section?
We do not.
Okay, good. Okay, good. Nothing like examples to make what you're teaching nice and clear.
Absolutely.
All right. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and summarize what we've covered today. So, the first thing I want you to think about is that when you're looking for stock photos, if you want to make the process go fast, go into it with this idea of, you know what, I'm just going to be really picky. I'm going to eliminate any photos that won't work for me so that I can only focus on the ones that actually work. So we started off by talking about the boring topic of only searching where you have permission. So that means using free stock photo sites like Unsplash and some of the others that people mentioned, Pixabay, Pexels are both good options. Making sure that you're familiar with their terms, their legal terms, so that you can use the stock photos for a business, and avoiding at all costs searching on Google image search. It is just not a good way to find photos. And what happens sometimes is if you look on Google image search, you find this photo that you fall in love with, but then later you discover it belongs to someone and you don't have permission to
Mhm.
use it. So I just tell people to not even look there. Just don't even look. Look like the woman at the beginning that we had covering her eyes. Just don't even go there, right?
Mhm. Absolutely.
And then we talked about going into the image search with a really clear idea about the emotion that you want to convey before you search. So, what emotion do you want to get across? Maybe write it down on a little piece of paper next to you so that you stay on track once you start scrolling through images. We talked about also becoming very familiar with your stock photo site and understanding how search works on that site. That is really going to help you to spend less time when you master the way search works on the site. It's going to help you to pinpoint the right photo a lot faster. We talked about candid photos and trying to avoid posed photos because it's harder for people to relate to posed photos. It's harder for us to put ourselves in the moment when the photo is very posed. It's easier to feel like we're right there when it's happening when you are showing the action using a candid photo. And I gave you lots of examples of that. And then finally, we talked about using visually simple images. And the reason we do that is that visually simple images look great at every size. So when your like social media platform visitor is looking at your image on a small thumbnail, your image still looks great, even though it's reduced in size. You can still make out what's happening. All right, and I know we're going to go to Q&A, but I know you have a demo to show us
I
first.
do, and I do want to ask one quick question before we go, and then we will head into that demo. So from Gary, I've been using from time to time Google Images, clicking only on the ones labeled for reuse. Should I be worried about the legality of those as also?
Uh, I, I think you should a little bit, Gary. Honestly, the reason I steer people away from that is that we have so many stock photo sites where it is incredibly easy to find the right image and to not have to worry about that, because those stock photo sites have negotiated with a photographer and they are basically telling you that you have the right to use that photo. What happens with Google image search, what can happen is maybe something was listed as rights free for a while. Maybe the owner of that image decides to change it down the line. So Gary, I just want you to be able to sleep well at night and not have to worry about it. So I would encourage you to break that habit and start using stock photo sites, free stock photo sites if you want, and use those for your images. And that way you just won't have to worry about it.
Perfect, perfect. That was it. So we are
I
going to
need
do a
to,
short, oh yeah, no, go for it.
should I stop showing my screen now so
Oh
you
yeah,
can,
I'll take over.
okay.
So I'll go ahead and take over. We're going to do a quick demo real quick, kind of putting everything into perspective on what we've done. So let me get PicMonkey open here.
Thank you so
Okay.
much for all these great questions, everyone.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. So let's see. So I've started out with this image here. I already have the copy done. So it's essentially having a little gardening masterclass. And I just stuck with this image at first because it's nice and pretty. It's simple, but to me, it doesn't really show off what I'm trying to do. It's supposed to be a gardening masterclass. And to me, this doesn't really show off that it's a gardening masterclass. It doesn't really fit to me. So I am going to go through here and replace this photo with one from Unsplash's collection of stock photos. So I will type in planting because I'm kind of looking for, I want to see people actually planting and getting
That
involved here.
I have to tell you that it's so smart to include people because it's easier for us to visualize ourselves in a gardening masterclass if we see people who look like they're in a gardening masterclass, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So I really like this one. Let's see, go ahead and add this here. It's got a person, she looks super happy, but it kind of looks posed. What do you think, Pamela?
I think it looks a little bit posed. I mean, maybe I would wear my cute fedora to garden, but I don't know, it might be better to look for a photo that is less perfect than this one. I'd also love to see one that has people actually kind of interacting with the plants. She kind
Yeah,
of looks like she's
absolutely.
looking at a plant. So Jake, I
Yeah,
have to ask you, you are using the new feature in PicMonkey to
I
do
am.
this, right? So
Yes,
so tell us about that because I don't
absolutely.
want to make sure people know where this is.
Yeah, so we actually integrated with Unsplash. So we have access in the editor to a bunch of stock photos. It's a wonderful collection. So you can just click on here. It's the photo section just right above graphics, completely integrated into PicMonkey, so you don't have to go anywhere. So you can search through here on this section, which is really easy just to jump in and add something. You can also, especially this is great if you're using our templates or a template that you've made, you can just select the photo and click replace over here, and that'll just replace this photo, which is so much easier.
Oh
So
yeah, I love that.
yeah,
I love that.
so
It's so great. It's so great to have it right there.
yeah, absolutely. No, it's right at your fingertips. You don't have to leave PicMonkey, go searching, download it, and then upload it again. It's just all with a click of a button. So super easy. We've been really excited about it, and we have really been loving it so far.
That's
So,
fantastic.
and for me, like I said, the emotion I really kind of want to portray for this is just people having fun. I want them like kind of like you said, coming together, have like a little bit of a community, and just having fun planting. So let's
Right.
see if we can find something with that. So, oh, actually, this one right here. Let's see how this one looks. Okay, this is perfect. So it's got people planting.
Oh
It
yeah.
looks pretty candid. I don't think it's posed, and people look really excited. So yeah, I like this one a lot. What do you think, Pamela?
I think that one looks great. They look like they're really involved. They also look like they're dressed to kind of take a gardening class. So
No
yeah, I love
fedoras.
that one. Right.
Perfect. Awesome. So that was kind of our short little demo. Just kind of wanted to put everything that Pamela has talked about in a little more context, just so everyone can see how quick and easy that can be to search for a stock photo. Now, in reality, this would still probably take me maybe 5 to 10 minutes to go through everything. It was a little quicker because I had already kind of looked through and had a plan for what I wanted to do. So just it shouldn't take longer than 10, 15 minutes to really go through and especially when you have a collection right there for you. So yeah, um, at this point, we will go ahead and turn it back over to a Q&A section. So
We're
Pamela, I
putting on
will,
our webcams, right?
yes, yes. So you guys can see our shining faces once more and we'll take more questions from you.
That's great. And I'm going to go ahead and put that link for my bonus content on my site, just so
Absolutely,
people
and I've
can
got those
grab
as
it.
well that I'll put in chat. Oh, thank you. And then it's also the PicMonkey page for Pamela as well. So it'll be her website as well as ours. So that
Oh,
should be in
great.
chat.
Oh, yeah, nice. Great. Yeah, I would love, and again, like I'm not seeing questions. I'm not sure why,
No worries,
but
I will
can
see
you be the
here.
question person?
Absolutely. So let's see. Lost my place here. Okay. So, um, So one was how did you get to the stock photos in PicMonkey? So hopefully we kind of answered that, but I'll reiterate. It'll be in the photo section on the left panel. So when you go into PicMonkey and jump into the editor, it should be right there under photos. And if for whatever reason you're not seeing it, please always, as always, reach out to our support team at help@picmonkey.com and we're happy to take a look. But you should see it on your left panel. So
Yeah,
let's
it's very
see.
convenient.
Absolutely. So another question about PicMonkey and Unsplash. It would be all of Unsplash. So it wouldn't, it's not just going to be sections. You can search through all of Unsplash's incredibly huge collection of stock photos. So everything's at your fingertips, which is wonderful. And let's see.
I
Yeah.
have a question. I just because I'm wondering if people have this in the back
Mhm.
of their minds, they can still use other photos from other places. Like the
Yes.
person who is here who wants to take her own photos, she can still bring those into PicMonkey, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
So it won't be as you'll just add a photo like you would normally. So
Like you always
um,
did,
yeah,
right?
absolutely. So it's like adding one of our graphics or an image. You can do that at the top. There's a button that says add an image on the top, and you can always use that to add your own image. So yeah, you definitely don't
Great.
have to use stock photos. You can totally use your own if you have them, or if you have something already downloaded, you can do it that way. So yeah.
Great. Great.
Um,
Awesome. It's very versatile that way.
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. So I'm seeing answered that. And it is going to be Unsplash. The integration will only be for the desktop version as it is now, and it will be for pro and basic users.
Nice.
So
That's
yes,
awesome.
absolutely. And I think please feel free to ask any other questions. I'm not seeing. Another one is about selling photos. Um, but it might not be too in line with the stock photos. So I'm going to skip that one for now. But I think that was everything we had. Is there anything else anyone has?
Great questions this time,
Yes,
everyone. They were really
absolutely.
great. I mean, you put together these presentations and you try to anticipate any question, but there are always questions that people have as they're watching. So I so appreciate everyone who took the time to drop a question into chat. It was
Mm.
really awesome.
Oh, and we actually now we've got a couple more, so let's go with those. Let's see. If you use paid image, that's still limited. Is it still limited use if you use a paid image? Is it best to steer clear of those, or just to be on the safe side?
So you can use paid images as long as their terms and conditions say that you can. I gave an example earlier that sometimes they limit things like, for example, if you download one of their images and you want to print it on a t-shirt or a mug and then you want to sell it, sometimes that's a quick example of some of the things that they would limit, but it's kind of on you to find out if you're allowed to use the image the way you're wanting to use it. The big message that I want to make sure people understand is that photos are intellectual property,
Mhm.
just like anything else in the business world. I mean, you wouldn't pick up somebody's article from a blog post and copy paste it into your site. You wouldn't do that. And so we shouldn't do that with photos as well. We need to respect the fact that a creative person put this together
Mhm.
and they're sharing it on a stock photo site, but we need to respect their terms. So it is important to familiarize yourself so that you can just feel really good about using the photo the way you plan to use it. And
Yeah,
like I said to Gary, you're not going to be up at night worried about how you use that photo that you downloaded.
absolutely. Use your photo with confidence. Do a little of the background research, and use with confidence. So, and
Right.
then let's see. Do one last question here. Should we have candid photos for a website?
I love candid photos for a website. I mean, honestly, I think it's such an easy way to stand out. A lot of times, like you said, Jake,
Mhm.
on the corporate websites, we see these very posed photos.
Yes.
And I think it's so important to show that there are real people behind a brand. I mean, look at Jake. Jake's from PicMonkey. He's a real guy.
Yep.
So it's so important to show that, and we can do that with photography when we do use candid photography. So yes, I totally recommend that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that is it for us. We will be posting the video in its entirety to YouTube. We have our PicMonkey YouTube page, and we also do want to announce we will be doing a contest that we'll be posting more about on our blog. So please feel free to head to picmonkey.com/blog to get more information. It will be a contest with Pinterest. So super exciting.
Ooh, that's gonna be
Yes.
awesome.
I know I love me some Pinterest. So
Yeah, me too.
awesome. Well, Pamela, thank you so much. And it was wonderful to talk to you today and talk to everybody else. It was so exciting.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Bye, Jake.
Bye, Pamela. Bye, guys.